Gentlelady yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Balderson, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my fellow Ohioan. Thank you all for being here today, going into the afternoon now. My first question is for Mr. Hunt, Mr. Hammer, and Mr. Byrd. If the EPA withdraws the PM 2.5 reconsideration, won't those standards be reviewed in about 2 years anyway under the normal review cycle? Mr. Hunt, you can start and we'll get.
Yes, this rule is a discretionary reconsideration of a standard. So if EPA were to follow the normal 5-year review cycle, you would have to make a decision 2 years hence. So yes.
Mr. Hammer.
We would hope the EPA would do just that and take a more holistic, practical, balanced view.
Mr. Byrd.
Yes, that is my understanding as well.
Thank you very much. For the next three, again, do you believe there are any good, do you believe there are any concerns that need to be addressed this urgently? If so, what seems to be the rush from the EPA? Go ahead, Mr. Hunt.
We certainly feel that EPA's got the cart before the horse here as they lower these standards very close to background. We have been working with the agency and pointing out the gridlock that would happen if this standard was lowered. There's a lot of more scientific, more accurate modeling tools and inputs to these assessments that could change a lot of these pink areas back to green if EPA were to work with other stakeholders and vetted their plans to be able to get our air quality improving, but also providing an environment for business opportunities and growth.
Mr. Hammer.
It's far more urgent that we make the United States more competitive for manufacturing when we're engaged in a great power competition with China. And we do this country no favor, we do our people no favor when we move manufacturing out of the United States and have it go into a far more polluting country like China. You could take it to the bank. If you have a facility that's going up in China, there's a lot more emissions. There's a lot more greenhouse gas emissions. And that causes far more planetary harm than having it placed in the country with the cleanest water, the cleanest air on the planet, and that's the United States.
Thank you, Mr. Byrd.
Yeah, representing an environmental agency, of course, clean air is important to us. We've demonstrated that through our past planning efforts, being able to attain with the standard. And I think with my neighboring states that are represented here, with a very growing and vibrant economy as well. We're attracting businesses, we're growing, and our concern is not maybe challenging the health data or the impacts to that, but how you achieve the standard. And the fact that if you don't have a pathway or a plan to get there, perhaps some of the narrative, at least in my area, is perhaps inconsistent because the benefits will not be achieved unless you have a plan to get there.
Okay, thank you. My next question is for Mr. Hammer and for Mr. Hunt. In 2011, President Obama withdrew an EPA proposal to reconsider ozone standards, citing, in his words, the importance of reducing regulatory burdens and regulatory uncertainty, particularly as our economy continues to recover. Over the past 2 years, my constituents have dealt with record inflation, and rising energy costs. Mr. Hammer, Mr. Hunt, do you believe it is just as important now as it was in 2011 that we work to reduce regulatory burdens and uncertainty?
Yes, there is a lot of regulatory requirements that are facing the forest products industry. This is one of them. So it's very important to be careful as one contemplates additional requirements to make sure that the benefits outweigh the costs.
It's more important today, again, to sound like a broken record, given the great power competition with China. It's more important today to have sensible regulations.
Okay, with all due respect, you may not be able to answer this, but I do want to ask the question. If we have time, we'll do it. Mr. Hunt, in addition to non-attainable areas, EPA's proposed PM 2.5 standards would significantly expand areas approaching non-attainment. You referenced this map earlier, which is above me, and it's here. You mentioned the pink area meets the standard but leaves insufficient room for projects to be permitted and move forward. Can you expand on how this is counterproductive to improving air quality? Wouldn't many of those projects actually lower emissions? I'm going to ask you to just submit those answers. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes